Kjære alle sammen. Wow, this was very tall. I'm going down. Okay. Welcome everybody. It's great to have you here. This is going to be a very strong afternoon. Welcome to the Holocaust Center. I'm the director here, Guri Hjeltnes. And it's a pleasure to see so many of our guests who used to come here, and we also have people who haven't been at the center before. So welcome everybody. This will be a mixture of Norwegian and English today, most Norwegian, because we know a lot of you speak Norwegian. But there will be absolutely a part of this that will be understandable for everyone. Dette det siste søndagsarrangementet her på HL-senteret i høsten 2019. Vi har hatt en ja, vi klare for neste program. Vi har allerede begynt i 2019, og vi har planer for 2018. Vi har hatt mellom 25 og 30 dager. Vi har telt over nå i programmet i formiddag, og det en blanding av søndagsforedrag, seminarer, konferanser, konserter, teaterforestilling for allmennheten, men også helt spesialtilpassede programmer for faglige miljøer. Det en stor ære å ha dere her. I dag det 9. desember. Det 70 år siden på denne dagen at FNs generalforsamling enstemmig vedtok FNs Folkemordkonvensjon. Han som utmyntet begrepet folkemord, Raphael Lemkin, satt ringside. Juristen Lemkin hadde deltatt i Nürnberg-prosessene i en periode hvor han også parallelt fikk vite at han hadde mistet 50 medlemmer i Warszawa-gettoen, i leire, på dødsmarsjer. I morgen det 70 år siden FNs Menneskerettighetserklæring av 10. desember ble vedtatt. Helt tett. Samantha Power, den amerikanske intellektuelle, skriver i sin bok A Problem for Hell at Lemkin var nesten litt sjalu på Eleanor Roosevelt og de som bidro til å lage menneskerettighetserklæringen. Noe var selvfølgelig konkurranse, at begge deler kom opp samtidig til votering i generalforsamlingen. Men Lemkin hadde også en oppfatning av at slike rene erklæringer var meningsløse. Han ønsket noe mer bindende. Kanskje det historiens ironi. Kanskje har menneskerettserklæringen hatt større innflytelse enn konvensjonen. Vel, det får vi vite nå. For det første temaet i dag hva var intensjonen med traktatene fra 1948, og de fortsatt relevante? Det veldig spennende å introduce Anton Weiss-Wendt, our senior researcher. This year he has produced actually 3 books on genocide and the UN convention. Anton has been for the center. He was the first researcher being employed here. He came 14 years ago, and he's an internationally recognized scholar on genocide, so it's an honor to introduce you, Anton. And after that, you will meet Ingvild Plesner, researcher and project here, and she will introduce a new platform. She will talk about the Yazidis and the genocide. And I think there will be a very strong part when we also have a talk between Anja Breien and Zahavi Sanjavi, both producing films. So please welcome Anton Weiss-Wendt first, and welcome everybody.
And they all agree that we can have this in English as a guest to our international guests. So you can have it in English, Anton. Everybody agrees.
Ja, alle sammen. Det var litt forvirring hvis det bør være på engelsk eller norsk. Vi kan do begge deler, men det kanskje bedre å velge bare ett språk. Sorry, we have it in English then. That's no problem. All right, first I thought I would speak about both the Genocide Convention and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but I probably leave the second to Ingvild because she deals with it sort of more in depth. And I, as Guri said, really did a lot of research on the Genocide Convention. I'm a historian, so my perspective is more kind of historical perspective. Of course, here are some books. I can even just pass them along if you're interested. Please, heavy scholarship, as you see. So anyway. Shortly after the UN General Assembly had adopted the Genocide Convention on the 9th of December 1948, The New York Home News magazine, doesn't exist anymore, summarized the process leading up to it as follows. The United States was indifferent, the Soviets said no, and the British never. I've done extensive research in American, British, and Russian archives, and I can confirm to the accuracy of this perception. None of the great powers actually sought or wanted a genocide treaty. I argued already earlier that genocide convention, if you will, became a casualty of the Cold War. The great powers thought of their prospective genocide convention not as a way forward on international criminal law, but as a liability of sorts. The issue at stake was to prevent the adversary from applying the Genocide Convention to own wrongdoings. Consequently, the Genocide Convention has stronger political underpinning than many other comparable documents of international law. To give you just a broader perspective, United States signed the Genocide Convention already in 1948, but did not ratify it until 1988. And I'll be happy to tell you why if you're wondering. Our United Kingdom never signed the convention, but adhered eventually in 1970. And the Soviet Union signed the convention in 1949, ratified with 2 reservations in 1954, and eventually withdrew the reservations under Gorbachev perestroika in 1989. In my research, as you can see in the books, they're making rounds here, I focus mainly on the sort of Soviet perspective on Genocide Convention, so I may as well start with that. Raphael Lemkin, the Polish-Jewish scholar and kind of godfather of Genocide Convention, he was also the one who came up with the word genocide, approached members of nascent United Nations in October 1946 with a request to put the issue of genocide on the agenda of the First General Assembly. None of the countries were interested, but still the proposal was anonymously voted in, and also by the Soviet Union. At this point, the Soviet policy was to yield on minor issues, such as Genocide Convention, in order to avoid making an impression that the Soviets were opposed to all things United Nations. The Soviet Foreign Minister, Vyacheslav Molotov, inquired if there was anything in the Soviet law relevant to persecution of genocide. And the answer he got from his employees, the foreign minister, was rather unexpected. Article 58 of the Russian Penal Code, ironically, for those who are not familiar with this particular article, Article 58, so-called counter-revolutionary crimes, was a staple of political repression in the Soviet Union in the 1930s and 1940s. The process of negotiations around the Genocide Convention evolved in parallel to the Cold War, of which one of the most crucial sort of events in 1947 was the launching of the Marshall Plan and the eventual rejection by Stalin. So that was in the summer of 1947. Around the same time, an American diplomat commented that the Soviets are digging their heels on the draft Genocide Convention. They want to stall the entire process by engaging in the article-by-article consideration. The first draft convention, so-called Secretariat draft, UN Secretariat draft, appeared in June 1947, and this draft faithfully carried sort of Lemkin original thinking on genocide, for the reason that Lemkin was one of the 3 scholars who actually drafted this document. And so the Secretariat draft offered the widest possible formula, which would serve as a basis for further discussion. The expectation was that it would be sort of narrowed down. It was very broad indeed. Take, for example, one of the central elements of a draft convention, Article 1, which described physical destruction. Among other criminal acts, it spoke of confiscation of property, and I quote, excessive work or physical exertion likely to result in debilitation or death of the individual. Well, that's exactly what's happening to the millions of victims who wound up in Stalin Gulag camps at the time. As you can imagine, the Soviets were not at all pleased with this draft. They were pleased neither with the contents, nor with the fact that it could exercise the direct control over negotiations, unlike, for example, in the Security Council, where the Soviet Union had the veto power. To remind, the drafting of a genocide convention took place in a pluralistic setting, with which format the Soviet Union was simply not familiar with. In November 1947, the Soviet Union filed several resolutions. First, they proposed to delay the discussion on the draft convention until some point in the future. Second, they insisted that codifying the so-called Nuremberg principles, the Nuremberg trial of the major Nazi war criminals that just wound up in October 1946, was a better way forward. And finally, they argued that actually there was no need for the convention altogether. A few days later, a political bomb, if you will, went off. Ukrainian and Baltic emigre organizations in the United States appealed to United Nations to investigate what they called Soviet genocide. Most ominous for the Soviets was the inference that by hunting down and killing members of the armed anti-Soviet insurgency, which was indeed ongoing in the Western Soviet borderlands, the USSR was committing genocide. Well, how would you react if you were part of a Soviet leadership? Sure, you would like to ensure that the Genocide Convention could not potentially be used against the Soviet Union, and ideally put the Americans and the British on the defensive by means of the convention. To Moscow's chagrin, the UN decided to go ahead with the Genocide Convention. As of early 1948, we're sort of seeing the emergence of a Soviet discourse on genocide, which can be summarized just in a few sentences. First, the only true genocide was perpetrated by Nazi Germany. Second, the elements of the crime are currently present in several countries, Western countries, which fail to ban fascist organizations. And finally, fascism is a key word that links Nazi crimes to modern forms of genocide. On top of that, the Soviets advanced, if you will, an argument ad hominem. Well, how the argument was, unlike you in the West, we know all about genocide because we experienced firsthand at the hands of the Nazis. So the Soviets were effectively taking this higher moral ground. In late March and early April, the Soviets worked out an alternative text of the draft Genocide Convention, which was personally edited by Foreign Minister Molotov in blue pencil, and subsequently by Stalin in red pencil. This is kind of hierarchical system, really. And those few documents go to the core of the Soviet conception of genocide. The regional guidelines to the Soviet representative of the UN Ad Hoc Committee on Genocide spoke of an organic link between genocide and fascism and related ideologies, added Molotov, and rejected the principle of universal jurisdiction, which was so important to Lemkin. That is to say, no to the idea of international criminal court. All the cases should be tried in domestic courts, according to the Soviets. Molotov was explicit. There is no way the Soviet Union would agree on confiscation of property and effectively force labor to become elements of the crime of genocide. Generally, had the Soviet proposal been rejected, the delegation should vote against the Genocide Convention as a whole. Now comes Stalin, who got to read the document previously edited by Molotov. So what does Stalin want or doesn't want to see in the Genocide Convention? He augments the link between fascism, Nazism, and related ideologies with analogous racist theories that preach racial and ethnic hatred. He crossed out all the reference to international law. The Soviets are averse to all things international, preferring them to bilateral relations. Like Molotov, Stalin was also fond of the concept of cultural genocide. And most crucially, he crossed out the word political as a motivation to commit genocide. That is to say, no protection is extended to political groups. So the Soviets stuck to the basic provision on the Genocide Convention throughout the course of negotiations. Simultaneously, the Soviet tactics had changed from defensive to offensive. They now explicitly refer to lynching in the United States and British colonial policies as examples of genocide, while arguing that the inclusion of political groups was, I quote, not in conformity with the scientific definition of genocide, even though the word genocide didn't even exist until 1944. Later in the drafting process, the Soviet delegation was instructed against making a fuss about political groups, and thus the International Criminal Court remained the only issue that the delegation was supposed to vote down. At the end of the day, even the Soviet amendments had been rejected. Molotov told the Soviet delegation in Paris to support Genocide Convention as a whole. Okay, let's now consider the American perspective. The signs of war started appearing within the US State Department as early as summer 1947. The Americans, too, believed that this original Secretariat draft was unnecessarily broad. Say, it could encompass the work of House Committee on Un-American Activities or the work of American missionaries abroad. They were also opposed to the draft provision concerning forced transfer of minorities. You see, US signed up to the 1945 Yalta and Potsdam agreements that led up to the expulsion of up to 13 million ethnic Germans from Eastern Europe. I think in the course of some 6 years, about 3 million of them died. Speaking confidentially, in September 1947, a State Department official, Charles Fye, prophetically stated, I quote, he didn't anticipate the convention actually being invoked for 50 years, or maybe 20. And now here I'm counting 1947 plus 50, that makes 1997. The first conviction on genocide, so-called Akayeshu case, was in 1998. Of course, that's a coincidence. Fire was not Nostradamus or anything like that. So consequently, the first official US communication on the matter of genocide argued against the inclusion of forced exile and linguistic groups, yet supported the inclusion of political groups and universal jurisdiction. The final decision on the International Criminal Court lay outside of purview of the Genocide Convention, according to Americans. Around the same time, that is September 1947, the State Department mentioned for the first time an emerging issue of concern to the US government, racial discrimination against Black Americans. Though at this point in time it was concluded it was unlikely to be considered under the heading of genocide. Nonetheless, as time went on, hate crime became a liability for the United States. Whether the discussion centered on the prospective penal code or state complicity, American diplomats watched out that no element of the Genocide Convention could be construed, I quote, in such a way as to cause us difficulties with cases such as lynching. Going into deliberation of ad hoc committee of genocide in 1948, many an American concern began to mirror Soviet. In essence, the final text of the convention should contain no provisions applicable to past and present abuses committed by the drafting nations. Perhaps the most striking, in my view, was US backtracking on the idea of international penal court. In the opposite case, as the argument went, communist bloc could hypothetically establish an international tribunal to try for genocide American citizens in their custody. The confidential State Department report of June 1948 testified to the draft Genocide Convention becoming a pawn in ideological struggle between the two superpowers. It directly accused the Soviets of fashioning the Genocide Convention into a propaganda weapon, as opposed to the American efforts, of course, to draft sort of a comprehensive legal document. The Americans, the future State Secretary John Foster Dulles, to be precise, briefly toyed with the idea of including economic and social groups in the convention. That idea, however, was instantly dropped along the previous instance on the inclusion of political groups. As of fall of 1948, the former wartime allies found themselves in agreement that the crimes committed by Nazi Germany did constitute quintessential genocide. The incessant Soviet assault drew home the realization that the Genocide Treaty, once adopted, might be turned either way. At this point, it also became obvious that neither the Communist or Western Bloc wanted to establish an international criminal court. Now, very briefly, onward to the British. The British, from the outset, remained skeptical as to the vitality and necessity of the Genocide Convention. Sir Hartley Shawcross, who was the chief British prosecutor at Nuremberg, some would say pragmatically, others cynically, argued in September 1947 that no convention would deter a state from committing genocide. Instead, he suggested relying on existing law as had been formulated and executed at Nuremberg. Only reluctantly did the British adopt a more conciliatory line, conscious of the embarrassing indifference to the crime of genocide that the post-Church United Nations had projected. Unlike the Americans, the British stood firm on the issue of political groups. If national, racial, and religious groups were to be protected, argued Shawcross, why not political? The issue of colonialism, as you can imagine, particularly when linked to genocide, made the British feel particularly vulnerable. Preemptively, UK delegate reasoned against extending the treaty's provision to so-called non-self-governing territories, that is, former colonies, as unconstitutional. Here's something interesting. Beside colonial policies, British diplomats, confidentially of course, came up with a number of instances that they thought may potentially be labeled genocide. And it's a pretty long list. The treatment of Jews in Palestine, the expulsion of ethnic Germans from Eastern Europe, the expulsion of communists from Greece. There was a civil war going on in Greece at the time. The treatment of ethnic Germans in the British zone of occupation, firebombing of German cities, and atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. When debating the Soviet amendment on public propaganda of genocide, the British diplomat declared that he would not have had any problem with it had the world situation been different. He feared that the Soviet Union would use this provision to, I quote, aims other than the campaign against genocide. At some point in the discussion, Shawcross raised what appears to be a fundamental problem in international law. I tend to agree in retrospect with Shawcross, and therefore want to quote him in full, a bit lengthy quotation. So here, Shawcross speaking 1948. While considering with sympathy the idea that the countries of the world should enter in a convention on genocide, I do not feel particularly enthusiastic about the draft convention before the committee. It was a complete delusion, I feel, to suppose that the adoption of a convention of the type proposed, even if generally adhered to, would give people a greater sense of security or would diminish existing dangers of persecution on racial, religious, or national grounds. Recalling the Nuremberg trials, nobody believed that the existence of a convention such as was proposed would have deterred the Nazis or fascists from committing the atrocious crimes of which they had been guilty. Those crimes were largely the crimes of totalitarian states, which would not change their methods because of the existence of a convention to which a number of nations had adhered. Despite deep misgivings about the Genocide Convention, Shawcross had managed at 11 hours to convince the Home Office in London that the United Kingdom should vote yes in the General Assembly. Even then, it was more of a face-saving measure, if you will, not to end up in a company with the Soviets who were expected to vote against the convention. And so on December 9, 1948, the Genocide Convention was passed unanimously. Chairman of the drafting committee, the American John Mactus, congratulated its members on the passing of a genocide treaty without mentioning that, I quote, they had put across our position in relation to genocide so successfully. The New York Herald Tribune hailed the signing of a genocide convention, describing it as an idealistic document. Well, I guess not so much to say a way of conclusion. I hope I made my point clear. When Raphael Lemkin originally conceived of a genocide convention, he thought that, I quote, such a treaty would take the life of nations out of the hands of politicians and give it the objective basis of law. My research and my talk today suggests the exact opposite outcome, namely primacy of politics over humanitarian or legal considerations in the UN Genocide Convention. Thank you. And of course, this is kind of a very broad perspective. I'm pretty sure you have some comments or other questions, sir, please. I spent almost 10 years in trying to answer his questions, so anything. Det kan også spørre på norsk hvis du vil.
Here's a question. Please use a microphone.
Yes, my name is Mama Othman from the University of The Hague, lecturer there. I congratulations for all the efforts that you have done publishing such a huge amount of documents and going through the process for a long time that started. My question is that when did this law came into implementation? Was it in the 1940s, Rwanda's war between Hutus and Tutsi, or it started before that? So as far as we know that it stayed as only an ink on a paper till the 90s. So what were the reasons for that it was not implemented? Thank you.
Well, it was a very good question indeed. Basically, I mean, the Genocide Convention was dormant for almost 50 years. Indeed, it came back to life after the nation signed so-called Rome Statute in 1993, and the first indictment on charges of genocide, as I mentioned, was in 1998. And the reasons before that was basically constitute my main argument. It was due to the Cold War, that the varying factions were made all possible that the Genocide Convention could not be applied to the respective countries. One of the major holdups was that basically US refused to ratify. That was a major player. Lemkin spent the last 10 years of his life, from 1948 to 1959, trying to convince US to ratify the convention, and he kind of used the argument of, for example, he jumped on the anti-communist bandwagon. He went after this argument that the Soviets were committing genocide as a way of kind of, convince the Americans. He failed at that because Americans were very concerned that the Soviets would accuse them of genocide for racial discrimination, for example. And there were some signs that they were about to do that. And basically that was the reason. I mean, I blame Cold War, if you will. So things really started changing in the late 1980s. Then we see the Cold War coming to an end. The American Senate finally ratified in 1988 under the Reagan administration, and the Soviet Union around just within next 2 months withdrew their reservations. The one reservation was that they opposed that the Genocide Convention could not extend to non-self-governing territories, basically former colonies, kind of a kick against the British. And another one, they're opposed to the International Criminal Court, basically. So not until 1993, convention could have been, applied. Any other questions or comments, please? Do we have time?
If I am allowed only to extend...
Please, yes, absolutely.
If I am allowed only to extend the question, could you please give a hint about the reasons that the Armenian genocide is up to now not acknowledged, although it's documented that the Ottoman Empire had or released all the farmans at that time, decrees to eliminate them, but only 30 countries up to now have acknowledged. And what are the reasons? Although everything is documented. Thank you.
Well, it's actually two questions in here, because first, the Genocide Convention cannot be applied retroactively. It was adopted in 1948, and then it should have been signed by at least 20 nations before it came to power. That happened in 1951. So anything that happened before 1951, including mass murder of the Jews, mass murder of Armenians, Syrians, any other case, persecution of minorities in the Soviet Union, could not be sort of formally prosecuted. So that was basically everything that happened afterwards. And another issue, why one or another particular country kind of officially recognized Armenian genocide or any other case of genocide. There is various factors. It's politics, high politics, obviously. I mean, every time, as you know, with regard to Armenian genocide, any country take up these issues, the Turkish government immediately interfered. They said there will be some consequences for you politically or economically. I mean, as you know, we had this in this institution on many occasions. Whenever we had an event dedicated to the Armenian genocide, there inevitably would be a representative of the Turkish government, cultural attaché, or someone in other capacity who would raise his, not usually her, hand and kind of present the official point of view of Turkish government. Having said that, I personally, I don't really believe that's a good way kind of forward. Should we recognize officially all kind of case of genocide? It's kind of still very subjective because it's a legal term, right? What does it do, for example? So, okay, we recognize officially. What does it mean exactly? So it's a bit of a kind of it's a tricky question. I don't think there is a kind of yes and no answer to that, frankly. But that's my kind of subjective opinion.
Anybody else? Yes, please, a hand here. You need a microphone coming up. Please. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Zuhair. I'm a Yazidi activist. Thank you for the comprehensive, short briefing on how the Genocide Convention was developed and so far somehow ongoing. Not only the Genocide Convention, even other conventions that has been like developed through discussions amongst the member states of UN. It gives you a sense that everything should be somehow tailored to go in parallel to the benefits of the great power countries, or at least to not go against their benefits. For example, I remember from a couple of days ago in Geneva, the High Commissioner very honestly, the High Commissioner of UNHCR, very honestly said that we some kind of continuously try to make a balance between the people who own us, meaning the member states, and the people we serve. I think it's a tricky way of how UN or other international organizations work. The member states, for example, they support UN, and UN is supposed to serve people. So it doesn't make sense somehow to be very neutral when you work to serve some people if it contradicts with the benefits of the member state that are supporting you to serve people. So what does this formula has to do with genocide as being a part of the conventions went through the UN?
Yeah. Very, very good question indeed. Well, any document of international law can say it's a political compromise in a sense, and not only great powers, because as I said, it's kind of multilateral setting, so every delegation has equal vote. I see it very clear with regard to Genocide Convention. Here I focused on the three countries, the former allies who really had a lot to say about it, and they pushed very hard. But there were other countries who were interested in particular, aspects of Genocide Convention, which was or was not to their liking, and I'll give you a couple of examples. All Scandinavian countries were against the notion of cultural genocide. Why do you think that is? Norway didn't say specifically. I look at the documents, National Archives, Sweden say, well, look, we have a Sami minority, which we kind of discriminate against. There is no way we can sign up on cultural genocide as an element of the crime. Then we will be liable. South American countries, and mind you, we're talking about 1947, 48. I think there were about 55-something member states, very limited number. And for example, South American countries constituted kind of a solid bloc. They had a lot to say. Lemkin and other countries kind of courted their votes. And then they were very opposed to inclusion of political groups. Why? One of them, I think from Brazil, said, well, look, we always have revolution in our country. And if the political groups will be in, then again, it will be, we will be liable. So they very clearly, when they say that, almost cynically will say. But another thing that I try to make kind of a point in my dissertation, research in this talk, almost a dissertation, yeah. Second, whatever, yeah. So that it's really, the whole negotiation happened when the Cold War kicked in, really, 47, 48. So when you kind of compare what's happening on the ground and how discussion hardened, for example, the Soviet blockade of Berlin, and how that affected negotiation, you really see the parallel, how the arguments hardened. First, there is a kind of goodwill, for example, on the part of Americans, of the three great powers. They're probably the best, disposed towards the convention. They really think that's the way forward in international law. But then they see kind of obstruction on the part of the Soviets. The arguments also hardened. So in that way, it was kind of very different from other documents in international law. But actually, we also have kind of similar, very heated debates with regard to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as well, which is going on parallel. But the difference here, of course, that this is convention versus declaration, right? So I think that would be my answer, in short. I don't know if it's answering your question to an extent. Yeah.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. My name is Barbara. I work with Norwegian People's Aid in Iraq, and I want to build on Zuhair's question the way I understood it. Considering the two purposes of the convention, right? One is the political interest of the great power, and the other one is serving the people on the ground. Looking at the Yazidi genocide, what are the realistic hopes and what steps you think have to be taken and will be taken for that genocide to be legally prosecuted, recognized the way it happened with the genocide in Rwanda the way it happened with the genocide in Srebrenica? Thank you.
Well, of course, here again, it's kind of my personal opinion as a scholar. I'm not a kind of legal scholar. I'm a historian. I would say that, let's say, within the past, 10 years, among the cases that have been sort of declared to be genocide, for example, Darfur, most recently Myanmar. I mean, in my view, the attack against the Yazidis probably qualifies as genocide. So in my view, it can be prosecuted as genocide. But again, I'm not a legal scholar. That said, I mean, as you well know, I'm in the United States. I mean, clear Secretary of State stated that it was a case of genocide. UN said it was genocide. But on the other hand, I mean, you see there's that International Criminal Tribunal of former Yugoslavia and Rwanda winding up. I mean, member states kind of, to an extent disappointed how much money they poured into that and how little result they have to show for it. I mean, the number of prosecution or just, the very kind of reconciliation in these countries, how far did they get thanks to the tribunal? So, I mean, now the tribunal in Cambodia, this mixed tribunal winding up its work. So I don't think there is any appetite for such kind of international tribunal. I don't think, realistically speaking, I don't think it's going to happen. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, as a non-legal scholar, I can't really foresee any other sort of legal avenues to prosecute it as a genocide. So frankly, I'm a bit skeptical that it will go. I mean, there'll be any kind of consistent international effort to prosecute it. I mean, as a case of genocide. But that's my opinion.
Well, anybody else? If not, Anton, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, and it's not difficult to ask you to improvise from Norwegian to English because he had his education from the US. But anyway, thank you so much. Let us give us a big hand to Anton Weiss-Wendt. And now we have a 5 minutes break. You can all have a cup of coffee because now we're just preparing for the next big event, which is a presentation of the new digital educational platform. But we need a few minutes to get up and then we will have some film. So please, you're welcome. There is a cup of coffee outside. And then 5 minutes, then we're on. Ja, men da må vi begynne da. Okay. Tor, du må gi meg lyd, please. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, and it's very seldom here we have such an excitement in the audience. So we just jump right into it. I will introduce our researcher, Ingvild Thorsson-Plesner, who will present, it's actually a world premiere, ladies and gentlemen, of a new online educational resource on the genocide of the Yazidis. It's something actually we started to work on before there was any talk of any Nobel Peace Prize. That we wanted to make an online resource on minorities' rights and genocide prevention. And Ingvild, the floor is yours. On to it all, please.
Judy, and thank you to everybody who has participated in making this come through. And that's a number of persons, and I will come back to that. But first of all, this international launch of the new online resource on inclusive citizenship and human rights. The first module presents the Yazidi case. The Yazidi case, as Gudrun mentioned, we planned almost a year ago. We started to work on this, and then the Peace Prize happened just 2 months ago, which made it even more relevant. But we had chosen, as all of you now understand, and I'm sure that everybody knows, why the Yazidi case was obvious as the first case to present. I personally was in Lalesh 2 weeks ago, met with the Baba Chawish, presented one of the things that we present on this online course, and I hope this will cooperate with me in going down a little bit. You would see here that we present the ancient city of Lalesh, the holy city of the Yazidi, based in northern Iraq, in the Kurdish region, in a 360 tour. And the first one who got to see it was Baba Chawish, together with Sahavi Sanjavi, who is, please come forward, who is a famous film director, as I'm sure many of you know, based in Sweden, originally from the Kurdish region. And we'll have you up here on the podium later, also to talk with you and to thank you. But his filming from the last 4 years to document really the human face of the Yazidi plight has been put into a 360 experience made by the just as talented photographer Stefan Åland, who sits humbly over there, from the Glitch Studios. He went to Iraq in this summer, and I was a little bit anxious sending him, so I said it's on your own risk, but it was on our mission, sort of, and Sahavi Sanjavi was there to help him out. And he took wonderful 360 photos from the city of Lalesh. And it doesn't really show it as good here as in the VR glasses that I know some of you have already experienced. We look kind of... You must give me one pair of glasses, Stefan, so I can show to the audience who haven't yet seen them. This is really the best experience. Here you have it with the sound and everything, and you look kind of weird, like I will do now when you put them on. And then you can click your way through and you'll hear the sound. So that's the best experience, and we get this from the Glitch Studio as a part of this project, and for all of you to see when our exhibition opens next summer. But now you can see it online in a 360 experience. First of all to Lalesh, and then to the Yazidi refugee camp of Asian next to Badre. Here you are inside, and you can click and see the videos. And this is a world premiere of putting film into a 360 experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, world-breaking news. The first ever. And here we go. A drone film of Lalesh. And please give the sound as high as possible. You can hear the birds? Oh. Then there is a technical problem. Oh, sorry? Okay, let's... Is it here that it's not the sound? Okay. Top here? Here? Yes. Ah, here. So we try again. It's okay. Maybe it does. Okay, let's just click. Let's just move down to the Lalesh main plaza. You click here, and then suddenly you are on the Lalesh main plaza. Here you can look around, and you see the knowledge market, right? And you can see the different places that many of you know very well. And for instance, you can get to see the people coming and going. Also with Zahavi Sanjavi's wonderful filming, you can go inside here and walk back. And you could, for instance, see the Easter celebrations. And this, I hope, will have sufficient sound. How many of you have been to this Lalesh during this? Raise your hands. Yes. And now all of us have been there, right? So you see, these are just 20 seconds or so. And also we have pictures, like for instance, sitting on these stones when Stefan was there. He was there on the 3rd of August. And as I'm sure all of you know, the 3rd of August marks 4 years since the Sinjar massacre. And these young people coming from different parts of the Kurdish region and also from other parts of Iraq and abroad have their T-shirts marking the 3rd of August 2014 in memory of the massacre. Never to forget those who are missing. We can also go further in. Here you will see in the stairs, you can have another drone here flying up to see the city from above. Den er ikke på fullskjerm. Okay, da. Okay, tilbake. So you see how wonderful this filming is from Zahavi Sanjavi. And then, can you please help me to, whoops, click. It's the mouse here which isn't really working. Can I please get help to close it down again? I want to just make... Okay. Okay. So, yes, exactly, to close it down. Thank you. And here is where you will see the Baba Sheikh, because as many of you know, the Baba Sheikh sits here. And this is his permanent place when he visits Lalesh, right? And can somebody help me again with the mouse?
Yeah, it needs to be a bit closer to the...
So the information point there.
Sure.
The information point there, yes. Then you see we also have information with text and photos saying that the Baba Sheikh is the highest religious leader of the Yazidi. This is where he sits when he visits the holy city of Lalesh. And then you get this information. And also for the Baba Chawish, his permanent place further down, also we have a photo. And then you can click it down and go to the next square. This one, exactly, this one. Then you come to the next plaza, the inner square, and you just turn around. You can see the Baba Chawish if you like, yes, you can point. No, this information point over there. Yes. So this is the place where Baba Chawish normally sits when he visits, and he's the one who lives permanently in Lalesh, as you know. And then you can close it down and turn around. Turn around.
I'm not sure how I do that here. I think you have to use the...
Okay, okay. No, we need to do it with the mouse, I think. So you have to... Okay. online, this works perfectly when you have a better mouse than I have now. And then you can also here, you can enter the next room. You can turn around and you will see the entrance to the tomb of Sheikh Adi. And you enter it and you come to the tomb, the first tomb. And here you see, as many of you know, the place where you have the knot ritual. And the knot ritual is presented here, both in text, where you can have a wish, and you walk around the column, and you tie up the knot to make the wish come true, also of your predecessor. Want to take it up to make it bigger? And it's not färdig. It's not färdig. And also you can turn around to see the oopsie. Okay, you understand the point, right? So you walk around, and in the same way, you can go to the refugee camp of Asian, and you can walk around in the refugee camp, and you can explore, interview with families living there, also filmed by Zahavi Sanjavi, and you can also see pictures, and in the inner tent, you will have an experience where you also see the news of Nadia getting the Peace Prize. So it's a very updated experience. So I just wanted to show you that, and also to show you that we have inside this resource a number of topics, which is to be found. For instance, as cases, like I said, we will have now only the Yazidi case, but under topics you will find genocide with information about the Genocide Convention, what constitutes a genocide, about human rights, the basic human rights that have been and are being violated in the case of the Yazidi, but also the basic rights that are supposed to be ensured for everybody. And then you have a page on prevention, a page on reconciliation and justice, justice before reconciliation, obviously, a page about civil society, their role, a page about education, a page about diversity in general, and you will find a number of resources, also external resources, where you can go to the UN and not least go to other international NGOs like Minority Rights Groups International, where Miriam Puktik is working, or the Ceasefire Center for Civilian Rights. You can go to Iraqi civil society institutions that work to promote the rights of civilians, and also to UN bodies. So you have external links as well. But last but not least, you have films, and a number of films made by Zahavi Sanjavi and also other film directors. And we have one of the things we refer to is the film Toran, made by, we have the director here, and we will, Navsat Shekani, show you the trailer for the film Toran, which actually is the first movie screen picture with the Yazidi case, and it won prizes in Hollywood at the International Hollywood Festival this year, and we're so happy to have him here with us. And it's a big hand. Yes. Oh, he's standing back there. So we'll just see the trailer of that one. I'm sorry.
Goedenavond, dit is Brandpunt.
اسمع يا ابني، كان لنا وجود عظيم وأملاك كتيرة، بس تخلينا عن كل شيء وتركناه ورانا. كانت حملة الإبادة جماعية.
ضاع الوطن وضاع كل شيء. هجرونا، قتلوا آبائنا وأجدادنا، لهيك انجبرنا ندور على وطن تاني.
انت كمان يا ابني تعذبت بهالدنيا. بفهم من هالحكي إنكم اتخذتوا قراركم. مبين ما إلي أي قيمة بهالبيت. ماشي مثل ما بدكم.
اوعى اشوفك تاني مرة هون ها؟ يقضي عن حليب عمك فيك.
حسيت في شي تغير جواتي.
هي تورن، شو شردت؟
أنا بعتذر منكم يا جماعة، لازم أمشي هلأ، سامحوني.
فنان موهوب وتعبان على حاله مو هيك؟
نعم فنان موهوب، في عنده إحساس مميز بالأشكال والخطوط اللي بيرسمها.
شكرا. لمبيت جورجي لذيذ مثل يلي قدمته تماما. يسلموا ايديكي مدام.
ألف صحة وهنا.
لو سمحت تورين، خلينا نحل المشكلة مشان ما تحرجني مع الزباين. هديهم كبهم بالبحر ما بتفرق معي. رح أعطيك مهلة أسبوعين. أنت خرسي اطلعي لبرا ما دخلك.
هيك عم تحكي معي؟
هذا البني آدم بحيرني.
تعرف إني بحبك،
بس بدك الصراحة فنان موهوب كتير وإحساسه عالي. تورين إذا تركنا كل هدول الشباب اللي عم يتركوا دينهم بسبب جهل أو مراهقة ومع كل هالإبادات الجماعية، بهالحالة ما رح يضل حدا منا.
I think we should give a big hand for Navsat Chekani. And then we will have the pleasure of showing. Actually, we had the pre-premiere of the films that Sahavi Sanjavi has made for us, which are available on this website on Friday during the conference. But we will, and some of you also were there, but a number of you were not there. So we will show one of them, which is actually a short version of Sahavi Sanjavi's very famous and internationally recognized documentary about the Yazidi Genocide and its effect on, in particular, women and children, The Return. And he has been so kind to cut down a short version of that, which is available on our new online resource. So please.
يا بابي وانا يا مامي وانا
أبهاونا ودوشكاي المرة شاندن السبهي دي سامتونا مالي درا هاتيجي قرتن سرجي بابي وماما كيمي ومامي بابي مبو چون دا گریانا دکوری هر سه کشتن کاشو جنین ما قرتين الداسه داعش دينا اتفروشن جنا كياس دي دينا دوازد بس آمديت هاي نيزينجي مابول بيدو उसका काम ना किचको का ديم ديم قاراوي कई बार सरद गिरी يكجي خنجرك حقاسل برغو هاتيجي غربا يليدا وامشي كوشبانا بيجي شركي وانشي وتشون ما فهم المعرض خوفا قريو اما امشينا مدرسه خو وكبري
كيف 10 سالي 11 سالي ونا سالي وانش زاي وقد تشتكي نزالي زارونا ابوش قرد درت فرونا يكودو
خدا نزاچ پیت کردن همون برش بانه کن ماما ابوز نزاچ پیت کردن بس ما زانی همون کات بد.
دلت پر دل ما هم پر وقتا.
ساله؟ نمیشه ساله. تو ساله. جيقابي ما بحسي هون يقولوا سامي ترسن دستين ما وسان جنبين ترسن لما قلنا يا غدي ما يش كده بنعمل ما نزاني بجوابي كده
ترم بيلوان هاتن قالك ترم بيل دوان هاتن ام ودريبون حاجت هاتت كشتن بس زاروا باز دا جنا همو کا بسارو باز دا بس وسامايد باز دا حاج ديوانه كشتن سارك هات امازن بوكايا كجواني تشيكي مديلي راشاندن بردانا همو كشتن
مبشابه خلي ريني مدي إذا عشكة ماليدا بيستو حفت كس كشتن ومخربرين يازدا كشتن وإذا بخرب يخسركن كشكشنا بخرب يخسركن
ما ديتو ما نادي دور ده ترى بيلوانها دور ده ترى بيلوانها هاجي باز دا فلتي هاجي باز ندا ما بازا بس قناه وكشتن
رشاشا كلاشينكوف شعبي خد يلدبي زاروكا ده وسات القصد دبي زاروكي داينا زاروكي يتبتشي كشتينا
يا مش حوشة دراني ما دي قالك المرينا قالك جنكو كاشكو زارو زلامو مو كشتينا كاشك جن قال خوان تحاري كرت كوستريدا خدا ما همات كرا قريب جاوي مديا وما يوتشيكا قوسا كراستو خدا خوفات تسان
نينا شبت ماتا نينا دي شبت ماتا خدا كان متشكرش طرف خدا نينا ما فيش كاتا دي شبت ماتا او دراج نيزام دي شبت ماتا
تشاوا مرو ببيني يه چيك زلاما يش پشتا زلاما القل زلاما مزن ببين يعني هندك بكوزن وحتى جاك دي تنبيني خذي بشغلك الزحمة يعني بصير قوية يعني شوا بصير كاري شوا بصير نامري
بس بدي افكر كيف غيرش دستي وانا خلاص بوانا وبس افكر كوزا روك وجنا معايلة دستي وانا ما يعني كسك دزانيت كوي بيناتنا
اوف
فشاو عم ناقرين ولا بيسو 4 ساعات عم بصير حالي خد القرين
A big hand for Sahawi Sanjavi. This is always very hard to see, and I know that some of you also saw the film on Nadia Murad's sister on Friday, but this is at least the first time online today. These new films by Sahawi Sanjavi made for us for this new online resource on inclusive citizenship. And this is his interview with Nadia Murad's sister in the refugee camp where Nadia Murad was based until she was moved abroad. We'll see a part of it.
ناوی خیریه مراده از خوشکا نادیای من نادیا چند کچکا چند وان همو گابو قالك يبقى بو الدلال بو خاصة البعض كامل ناديش مع ما بزمان تربو براستي بزيرك تربو باحترام بو كفايتاتي يعني سالونا كديني مكياج وانشيكا دا كم قلت كتا مدرسة خلاص كرزيش ترى سالوني وكم بانز داي مها هشت هم كرنا مدرسة دا بخوام برنا طبقي سري كاشكوجن وسوري وان درو دوريد قنت مير همو برن الويدر كشتن دا كد ما الويدريش ما قد كرن حودكي ماسيا يدبر ما هدبو كرنا وي حودي ماسيا دا واوجي كشتن روجا دي تريد ناف خوان دينو هريكيجو جيبت رشاني نم كرني دام فرودنا هناك دي تريد ازبنا جوان رنا برم 15 ماه 8 كد مدرسة داعش حتى 24 ماه يك از هاد مكان به دي هك از هاتم با مثلا افتشتل في تعقيبون ناديا الفي قليش كده نفست وخوش كامنا دي الفي دري نفست و كجا برايم الويدرا دي نفست وازو كرك الفرد نفستن كركي هكا بخور خلاص كدي وبشتي هنجي جنبرا ما زن هاد داكا كاترين او دسي زاروا و دراهات امچونا بيشي ودراني داكا يكركي هكا ما مبخوراني هات از مثلا زو ناديا وكتشونا بيشي وان درا خوشكا ما زن شو خارج والبيرا ناديا شو ما قالك يكودو مثلا كهيلا بيكودو هابو بجوختي كا داكا منا ما ازو ناديا خوشكا خودي تري براستي ما بيكن مرتاح بون الفيدري بس هردو تشون داشي مكن اف كاچا برايمني مازن بو اف كاچا يا مازن بو بعد عشتات كخلاص بيبقى ما بيلي يعبوا كيكرل نيبا حاويجا وكركول اف كاترين ونسرين هردونا اف طياري الفيدا الموصل وفي ناديا وفي اسف از بخواد شوما اگنده خوا از شوما سر مغبراجنا يعني تشما همو قدكو زبونو کراسو اسپیبون خودی پورد هما در کتیبون خودی دنانت هما لوی قادبون من نزانی کی هستی شوانی داکا من نسرا سر سکنی بون اشتكي داكا ما بي ناديا بي الوي غرفي كامل در نهيلا اف ترك ترى عام بو غين فيجي نهيلا بو نهاف مالا ما اف جن برامنا اف وكا كرسيا عيالي ويبو هاف دكانا ويبو بجوختم چونا مال دي دكاناوي خراكلينو جيوي خراكلينو وف كرسياوية كوقتي تيدا رونيو كزاني او نينا وكاليب زحمت بو ساني او بو وادي خوشكا من الناش داكا منازو او اشتوما مال فكراسي داكا مبو ورداي جريداي بو مفكر وبراسي وكزعيجز بو بسردا قديامو مقو چلوز بي مقو كراسي داكا مبني چند سال او سا 4 سال اون سا در وده دا کام یکی کراسی دا کام نگریه اعمال ده مبخوچو مانیا مال مفکرش ویدری و سر دا گریام کراسی وبر بغرفاوی دا دیسا دالقاند و کبری تشتاقی دی دا که خوانا دی بخوادی غین وی اب نادیا دا کامه اف كاترين كجبرين ابويا كتوقت انه ها ناديا تشتي تشوفها ناقري خدي حقي ما جيب بابا ايكا وصال ما كري سري سبب دستي ما هم كاجي قد كري
ورا ورا ورا
ماشي ماشي
ورا 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 چار خویشکو و 12 برابون نادیاش مهما کچکتر بری فرمانی ل بالمدرسه بو پشتی فرمان هاتی آن همو زانی بادا کرم کوچو شش براد مو دایکم روزا 15-8 کوچو دا کشتن باکا نالا نادیاف ندیتیا 19 ماه 12 ساله کوي گیا مزنب سره مهاجت کیفا مناد اشتك كيرتيكا ناديال بربا ما تشيكربا باكا 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 بابا شنو تقول واه ديال واه ايه بناديا ناديا
روان
باي باي كش ناديا باي كش مثيرة
روان
باي
مثيرة باي باي كده
باي ناديا زي فخور مبتا بري همود اشتقي جايزة تبيروزيد كمو والخلق كردستان وخلق عراقي هموي والعالم هموي سبيروزيد كمو زي فخور مبتا تخوش كامني كده في شغليت كي ولسر شغلي خبر دوام با كيفا ما قال لك زي فخور مبتا
نادیا از جایزات پیروزیت کم خوش کامنه اشتاوی تماچت کم ومدوی يعني وكا جهتي بلنجازة همو كابي كيفانجي قالك اشترتي و دفين يعني وقتها كمد بينن هكا قالت اسقالت بقم الباون قالك كيفانتي دا مدفي جهتي البلنجازة بي وتتشتاقيش بلنجازة جي ربكي تنش نفسيا من هوس خوشكاتي ما من نافتش من ربكي مدفيتش إنساني بلنجاز ربكي وجهتي البلنجازة بي وشافي تديسا ماچت كم خوشكادلا
Again, thank you to Sahavi Sanjavi, but also to his also to say that this is actually a film that NRK, the Norwegian Broadcast, and the Norwegian Peace Center have been so kind. Sahavi Sanjavi has been so kind to lend them this film, but also filming from Lalesh. So this has been cut into greetings to Nadia and presentation of Nadia, which will be available. The other one. That will be sent on the Norwegian broadcast tonight as a part of the Nobel Peace concert. So that's very generous of you. And I also have the pleasure of presenting Mr. Abbas, the producer of Sahavi Sanjavi when he's in Iraq. So please. Yes, both of you, stand up. Yes. So, and while we're preparing for Lalesh, we prepare for Lalesh. I would just like, it's good. I would like to just ask you, Sahavi, and also you can translate for Mr. Abbas, but why do you make these movies about the Yazidi? Why have you spent 4 of your years since the genocide in this? Så vi tar dette på norsk, eller svensk.
Ingvild kan ha mikrofonen.
Ja, han skal få den. Og så oversetter jeg. Han har mygg, så den tar vi på.
Allt som hände den 3 august 2014 och lite senare, det är otroliga tragiska händelser som kan hända i det här nytiden. För mig, att det hände, det var en sak som vi kunde veta innan eller förhindra på något sätt. Men vi alla måste göra någonting åt den, att det ska inte hända igen. Allt som jag har gjort i 4 år. Jag har bott i flyktinglägren i 4 år med hjälp av Abbas Ghazali som min kurdiska filmproducent. Och sen Ingvild deltog senare i vissa filmer som har med HL-senteret att göra. Det är ett försök på något sätt att folk ska veta vad som har hänt för att försöka på något sätt förhindra att det ska hända igen i Kurdistan, i Irak med jezidierna speciellt och annanstans med andra folk. Det är ett försök att förhindra att det ska hända någonting.
Tusen takk, Sahavi. Vi gjør dette veldig kort nå, så I will just translate. So what he says is that why he does this is because he wants to make the documentation of what has happened, what effect it has on human beings, and to make sure through telling this story that it will never, ever happen again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, okay. Yes.
Vi vill fråga Abbas Ghazali och veta varför han stöder de här projekten.
ایواری باش ایرو کو روژا جیهانیا ناساندنا تاوان دژی مروایتیه و بو هندی دوباره نبنوه از پیروز بایل مروایتیت کم کو امجی جاره کی تر بو کارساتا کی دی روننین ریل هم کارساتا ویتا گرنی هنر بگشتی زمانه که کچو حدودو اوینینه للالش هر جاکی موسیقاوان دفو اویتوان لی بدرین همه خلق دیگه خودتی ایزدی بی مسلمان بی یهودی بی مسیحی بی هر نتوایک بی هر اولو نتوایک بی چون که زمانه که لحستا مرووراتت و بو هندش که ما بتوانین ما اما کردستان عراقی بتوانین دست و ایش و آزاد خوب کن ما پیویستا دی کومنتاری هایت ایش و کووان و علامت خوب و خلقی دی ببیجین به شیوهی که علمی و زانستانه لریکا سینمای جی خوشحالیه در هنرید مید کرد به تایبتی و 4 ساله که برای برزم کاک زهاوی که سینما لروسیا تواف کردیه و الپیشش دا چند فیلم دیوید کردن و فیلم دایکانی منیش لسر انفال 8000 بارزانیا که در هنری و کاک زهاوی بو امد زانین اهمیت سینما دنیای چنده فیلم او بی لو ما بو هنده موی تاوانه ایشت خوب بکن ما پشگیریاوان که ده ارکه میا وظیفه میا چل روی انسانی چل روی مروواتی چل روی نتویه و سپاس باوش.
Thank you so much. Can I briefly translate into Swedish?
Ja, han säger att konst, speciell film, kan spela stor roll att försöka uttrycka och ändra på saker. Och vi vet om det här och det är därför vi stöder sådana projekt i korthet. Alltså.
Thank you so much to both of you. We have another surprise for you at the very end. We will meet yet another famous film director, but first we will see the third short film that Savi has made just for us for this new online resource from Lalesh, please.
بیرو باوریت ازدیاتی دا وقتی دست بکرنا عردی وقتی عرض خود همو آف بود توی وقتی دا لالش رب العالمین چکر و توی وقتی دا عرض خود همو جمدی بو آخ لالش بری هر جه کیش لالش دست بکر او آخا چه بوی اجبروی که کو کونترین جی لالشا نورانیا و پشتی بوی آخ جی پاشی آدم پیغمبر هر هیره چه بویا و دوی آخی دا چه بویا وی آوا لالش چه بویا اجبروی که جی جیان هیره دست بکریا بشری جی الویده دست بکریا هر تشتر جور دست بکریا اجبروی که جی کونترین جیا لالشا نورانی لی مخابن گلک جاری هاتی خراب کرنا لالش اجبروی که بلکی کونیاوی زاف دیار نبیاج دیوارو آخو اویتوی انجی گلک جاری هاتی صوت طنو خراب کرنو طالان کرنو ویران کرن براستی کونیا ازدیاتی کس نکارا تاریخ که محدانش برکو ام ادبیجین آدم پیغمبر لالش درست بیا و جبرکو هر تا شهنگی هطان هوجی ازدی کو ام ادبیجین هین ام کونترین نجوان دیانتا حموا ام هر و هر حوالت خود پاره سابینا و دائما جی هر ما خود پاراستیا و ام چو جارا نبینا دجی چو دیانتاش ایزدی پیشی عبادت خودت که ویا 7 ملیاکتا ایزدی ملتکی وکو حج سروشتیت کت حواله سروشتیه وەکو ملەتە ئێزدیژی بڕاستی ملەتێکی ئاشتی خوازن دینێکی ئاشتی خوازە وەختێ هەر ئێزدیەک تۆ هەرە نەکوی حش ئاواکردنێت کە حژیانێت کە حش ئینسانەتیێت کە رب العالمین هەر کەسێکە رب العالمین ئەف خودێ هەندەی مەزن بەشەر وێدایی بۆ باشیێ بۆ ژیانێ بۆ ساغبوونێ بۆ براتیێ بۆ هەواڵتیێ بۆ ژیانە خۆش و ئاواکردنا وڵاتە نەبۆ کوشتن و نەخۆشیە واندایە ئەم دایمەن وەختێ دوعایت بکەین ئەم پێشی بۆ خەڵکێ بکەین پاشی بخۆ بترجی ئەم سەکەلینە و دەسێخمە بلندن وبر رب العالمين وبر بروجي روش هلات وروش آفا أم بري خود ديني أم بجين يا ربي تبدأ خاطرة نابي خدان خاطركي تو الحالة في دنيا حمي برصيد باشي مثل
Thank you, Sahavi. And then we have a surprise for you. Actually, not many people would know that 10 years ago, there was a documentary called Yazidi, and it was made in Norway by a very famous Norwegian, and all Norwegians know her, obviously, and would be excited just to be in the same room as her. For the others, if you don't know, we have here the famous film director, Anja Breien. Please come up. And she actually made this documentary, please. It was launched in 2009, called Yazidi. We will not have the time to show it now, but you must know that it was a groundbreaking documentary showing both Lalesh, beautifully screened like Sahavi's photos, also interviewing Yazidis in Iraq, but also Norwegian Yazidi community, which was already there on flight from war and traumas already. And Anja, I would like to ask you, why did you make this film just shortly?
It was a coincidence in the beginning. I think, kan jeg snakke norsk?
Absolutt, ja. I'll translate.
Ja. Jeg tror på meningsfylte tilfeldigheter. Jeg hadde lavet en kortfilm som var på filmfestivalen i Berlin og fikk en pris. Så ble den invitert til filmfestivalen i Damaskus. Og på flyet der så reiser det seg en høy bergenser og sier, du Anja Breien? Ja. Du må lage film i Kurdistan. Og irakisk Kurdistan. Og han var da leder av Norsk Folkehjelp.
So
han har bare 1 år igjen. Also, yeah.
I'll just translate that because I have a short time memory. So basically she says she believes in meaningful coincidence. And one of these meaningful coincidences that she experienced was that she was on the plane and the man raised up and he said, "Are you the film director Anja Breien?" And she said, "Yes." And he said, "You have to make a film in the Kurdish region of Iraq, in Kurdistan." And he was working for Norwegian People's Aid, which is one of the coordinators of the events on Friday that you all know.
And he had an idea for a film, and I said, I cannot make that because I don't know the language. And they said, well, if you find an idea, please contact me. And I got an idea for a feature film, Kurdish. And I got some money, never for the film, but to do research. So with the cameraman, we went on research, and we, after crossing Tigris, Norwegian People's Aid was there, and we drove on our way to the Hook. He said, "Shall we visit the Yazidis?" And I said, "Yeah, what?" And then he explained about Lalish and the Yazidis and the cameraman, and we said, "Yes, we want." So I said, "We'll go there to Lalish. We just have to buy some madras, because we have to sleep. We will sleep on the roof." And that was my first meeting with Yazidis.
And this was at the time when also terror groups were attacking Yazidis already, and that's also shown in the movie. But yes,
this was before.
Yes.
Ja, men nå skal jeg til norsk igjen. Okay. Så prøvde jeg å få noe penger til å reise på igjen, og vi fikk ikke på instituttet, men vi fikk på Fritt Ord. Og så spurte jeg da, siden vi ikke fikk fullfinansiering, om vi kunne ta de 100 000 vi fikk, og så reise og skrive artikler, 3 artikler. Ja, det var det. Så reiste vi forskjellige steder og skrev, og igjen til Lalish. Og så tenkte jeg, nei, det må jeg spare til en film, ikke en artikkel.
Yeah, so briefly, she was making another a series of articles, and she came back to Lalish and wanted to make a film out of that later, which she did. And because we have so little time, we just have to make the conclusion. Yeah. So she made this movie, and one of the things she also did was to film a Norwegian-based Yazidi family, and we have them here today. And I just would like to then ask Nariman. She was at that time a girl of like, how old was she when you were filming them? Because we have just one more minute.
9 years.
9 years old? Now she's 19. Please, Nariman. And, yes.
Jeg vil gjerne tilføye kort etterpå.
Veldig kort.
Ja, at tiden var gått, og da vi fikk lavet filmen om jezidiene, da hadde det var første gang IS dukket opp, og det var 2 jezidi-landsbyer som ble invadert, og det ble drept 380 mennesker. Og så etter det var det vi ville. Ja.
Yes. And so it was an attack by ISIS, which later developed to the ISIS we know, and Al-Qaeda, yes, attacking Yazidi villages already in 2008 when she was filming, and the film was launched in 2009. And at that time, Nariman, you lived in Drammen, and you still live in Drammen. At that time, you were sitting in the film on your father's lap, and we have the father today. Please, someone also come up.
Yeah.
I have been so fortunate to be watching and also filming when Nariman and Anya met again after 10 years, and that was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And also now today, on this very day, Anya met together with Salman again after 10 years. So this is a big day of reunion. Yeah. So you're watching a historical moment. And since then, Nariman has become a law student. And I would just like to ask you, Nariman, and of course she speaks Norwegian fluently, but why do you study law?
English or?
English is easier now.
I think especially my background has a lot to do with it. As a 14-year-old seeing the massacres in Sinjar, it gave me this deep sense of justice, and that justice needs to be persevere. And I think it was just this idea of justice was ingrained within me, and this idea of social engagement, and that's why I want to pursue law studies, because I felt like, as cliche as it may sound, that with a law degree you could actually make a difference and you can help bring justice.
And then, thank you. And I will ask your father, and your father may answer in Norwegian or Kurdish. I have been so fortunate to visit Nariman's family, his father and mother. The mother is also here today. Where? Yeah, there's the mother. Please, you must raise up. Come on, come on. And as maybe few of you know, there are about between 200 and 300 Yazidis living in Norway. Or maybe you can answer, how many Yazidis live here and where are they based? You must have the microphone. And when did they come?
Jeg kan svare på norsk.
Ja.
Det er cirka som 400 mennesker vi bor i Norge. Så vi første gang som vi traff med Anja Brei, og vi ble kjent med henne, så det var...
Da var det 150 den gangen.
2007...
Ja, 2000. Filmen kom i 2009, men vi traff hverandre 2008.
2008, og vi fortsatt beholdt vennskap, og jeg er veldig glad i dag at vi står her og sånn med Anja Breie. Takk for det.
So what he says, and I'll summarize in English, and he speaks of course fluently Norwegian, is that there are close to 400 Yazidis now living in Norway. At the time when Anja Breie made her documentary, there were approximately 150. And yes, and also maybe you would like to, Nariman, say something about how is it like for you to have family in Baadra? Actually, I was in Baadra 2 weeks ago, and I saw your house there. I know your grandmother lives there. And when were you in Baadra and Lalesh last time?
Last time was in 2013, December.
So you haven't been there since the massacre started and the genocide started in 2014?
I have not.
So, but do you have memories from Lalesh?
I have very few, and I do have memories there. Mostly just this feeling of togetherness and this feeling of getting to know one's culture.
And actually one of the things that also Sahavi has done for us is to film the pilgrimage week in Lalesh, which happened for the first time this autumn in October. The Yazidi have 3 major feasts, one in April during what is more or less Easter/New Year, one in October, which is the pilgrimage week, where they also celebrate the Sheikh Adi, which is a reformer of the Yazidi religion, and then they have the Eid, the Lent, etc., with the feast in December. And they didn't have their pilgrimage week since the massacre on Sinjar in 2000, and I can never say it without crying. Sorry. 2014. I'm sorry. They haven't had the celebration since then, but for the first time, Monica, can you please prepare that? For the first time since then, they had it this autumn, and we had Sahavi Sanjavi. I called him, and you can come down now. You can stand here while we're watching it, and asked him to film it, and we did so. And the one who is telling about it is Nariman.
Som heter Jamma for jezidier, hvor de samler seg i den hellige byen Lalesh. Det er en slags pilgrimsreise for jezidier fra hele verden, fra hele Kurdistan-området, fra Irak. Det er rett og slett veldig mye liv som er i Lalesh akkurat denne uka. Det er dans, det er religiøse ritualer, samtidig som at folk døper barna sine i denne perioden. Og så er også Baba Sheikh der, som er på en måte vårt religiøse overhode. Baba Sheikh er for oss som paven er for katolikkene.
So this is, I think, many thanks to you, Nariman, for helping out. This is a first part of a coming documentary, which is also to be posted on our website in 2019, about the Norwegian Yazidi community, and Nariman with Asaki in that one, and also following up sort of Anja Breien's movie. So it will be a 10-year anniversary for your film, which is also going to be ready then for the fifth remembrance of the massacre at Sinjar next summer, where we open an exhibition here about the Yazidi plight in this very house, with film from Sahavi Sanjavi, and with also, which of course will show your film if you allow. And I just have to say that also there will be a VR, a virtual reality experience made in cooperation with Glitch. So that's opening next summer. Now we are going to close, but a big hand to Anja and Nariman. Woo!
Før vi avslutter, så har vi hvis Trude også kunne komme opp hit.
Jeg heter Revina Aswad og er jezidi selv, og har vært med og arrangert noen av de siste seminarene som har vært de siste dagene. Jeg vil spesielt, jeg og Nariman ønsker å vise hvor takknemlig dere er for at dere har vist oss den støtten og rette fokuset på det som har skjedd, det forferdelige som har skjedd og som fortsatt skjer. Den støtten dere har gitt oss viser hvor mye dere bryr dere om oss, og at vi ikke står alene. Vi er utrolig takknemlige og setter stor pris på det dere har gjort for oss. Tusen takk.
Tusen takk, Revin. Si at det har vært en fantastisk glede å samarbeide med både Nariman og Revin, og de har vært fantastiske medarbeidere i å planlegge, ikke bare gi innspill til læringsressursen, med å være kompetanse på det, men også planlegge seminarene vi hadde på fredag sammen med Trude Falk fra Norsk Folkehjelp. So I also say it in English. Nariman and Revin have been really key players in development of this experiences of Lalesh and giving input on the knowledge base there, but also in planning the events on Friday, and a great inspiration. And I'm so privileged to work together with you and Trude Falk. So on behalf of the HL-Center also as well, please accept my deep, deep thanks for this cooperation. It has really been important to me also on a personal level. Thank you so much. I have gifts here for yeah, okay, for the famous director that we have here, Sahavi Sanjavi, in English. That is one of the book of Anton Weiss-Wendt on the Soviet Union and the gutting of the UN Genocide Convention that you have heard of in English. So thank you for that. And I think I would just like to also give you, I have here, on a more personal level. Yes, this one is to share with your family who has allowed you to work together with us and spend so much time. And it's been a true privilege. And I hope to continue the cooperation. Thank you so much. Also, I have one from Mr. Abbas. Thank you for also your assistance to making this possible. Thank you. Thank you. And then I have for Anja Breien, I have this book, Simon Stranger, Leksikon om lys og mørke, one of the books that we have down here. So this one together with some sweets also for you. Thank you so much. And then I have Nariman and Revin again. I have this little for you with some raspberry juice and some chocolate. Thank you, to share with your family. Revin, where are you? This is almost like Christmas. We have Thank you so much. And then finally, I would like to ask also Miriam Puktik, who's part of the Minority Rights Group International, who is one of our main international partners, to please come up and accept our small symbolic thanks for your cooperation. She's appearing in 2 wonderful interviews where she teaches about minority rights and the online resource. So yes, thank you so much. Yes. Yeah.
Please standing, Anton and Ingvild. I mean, Ingvild, you need something. You know, when the researchers give lectures here at the Holocaust Center, they don't get books because they are supposed to write books. So you get a wine. And please come on, Anton. You have been improvising. He had prepared the most perfect manuscript in Norwegian, and he just, you know, as he had simultaneously took it all in English because it's brave. Anton, yes, and it's absolutely fantastic for the work you're doing on the genocide in general. So thank you, Anton. And Ingvild, what can I say about Ingvild, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, she's the lady with the energy and everything that you have managed to do before we knew of the Nobel Peace Prize and after we knew about the Nobel Peace Prize. And, you know, it's just symbolic. But thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of this Sunday. It's 4 o'clock and it's a wonderful blue hour outside. It's as wintry, it's a beautiful Norway as it can be. You're all welcome back on our next program, but it starts in 2019 and we start Sunday, January 27th on the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. I must invite all our Yazidi friends also to come and join down there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and all of you Norwegians know about this date, but please come, and then our program on Sunday starts in February. For now, thank you, and welcome.